It's June 25th, 2025. My name is Eliel Hinojosa, and we're here interviewing. Can you tell us your name, sir?
John Considine.
And when and where were you born?
Was born June 6, 1979 in Temple, Texas.
And who are your parents and what were their occupations?
So my parents were Joseph and Barbara Considine. So it's at the time my dad was in the active duty in the military. I don't recall what his MOS was. I know it was in the medical field, I believe. And then my mom was, I believe, just starting as a teacher at the local community college there in Central Texas. And then they basically were both, my mom was still in the education, teaching through basically all my life until she retired out of it. And then my dad stayed active duty until I was probably 3 or 4, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little older. And then my whole memory is he was in the reserves and worked at the hospital. Mm-hmm. Growing up, ultimately becoming an RN until he retired from both the reserves and from the hospital.
And can you tell us about your memories of your elementary and secondary school experiences?
Well, what I do remember, so I was one of the few kids who grew up in Copper's Cove, which is right outside Fort Hood, who actually started school in Copper's Cove School District and graduated out of there, continuing, because high density of active duty military in the area, so you very rarely had, I think there was 15 in my graduating class that we all started kindergarten together. So elementary wise, I only remember 2 elementary schools. Mm-hmm. The one I went to, and the only other one I remember, the biggest memory I have from there is we had a rivalry softball game that the 4th graders played every year, that they transported the class, swapping schools every year. So I remember that was the biggest deal as you worked your way up and you became a 4th grader. You got to be, the 4th graders were the players, and then if you were in 3rd grade on the travel year, they actually took the 3rd graders to the other school and you watched the game. Other than that, I have a couple spotty memories here or there of some teachers maybe during that time frame, but not many memories, except for the fact that our principal would go and you would get birthday spankings, but I never got one because my birthday was about a week after school got out. So I do remember, I think one year, maybe around the 2nd or 3rd grade, they actually made it kind of a big deal. At the start of the next year, they acknowledged, that was the first time we remembered, they kind of acknowledged all the summer birthdays, and then I don't know if it kept going. Mm-hmm. So,
what about a teacher that stood out to you in high school maybe? Were there any the teachers that just a little bit burned in your mind, vivid memories of a high school experience?
So there are several, and I will let you know I'm horrible at remembering names for whatever reason, but I did have, so my senior year I had the ag classes that I took. There were really 2. We had, I think it was Mr. Swouts. I think that was his name. He was one of my actual teachers. And then I had Mr. Barnett, who I can't remember if I physically took a class with him or if he was just a coach for the horse judging team that I was part of. So, you know, that kind of going through them, working with them through that time, they're the ones I remember the most as far as just being with.
So when you graduated high school, did you go straight into college? Did you have jobs after that, or did you have jobs during high school?
So I had a couple of jobs in high school that really, besides just the helping haul hay for friends, neighbors, stuff like that. So my only really paid job in high school, I did work at a sale barn for exotic animals in Burnett, Texas. So I did that pretty much periodically throughout my high school years, and through the summers. So that was really kind of the job that I had. Coming out of high school, I knew I was going to go into the military. I initially thought I was going to go to the Marine Corps. Just was like, hey, their uniforms are cool, I'm going to go in there. Didn't really think that out, because the whole reason I didn't want to go to the Navy was because I didn't want to be on a little boat, big ocean. So fortunately, at that point, the recruiting officer, Marine Corps recruiter that was at our high school, just really kept annoying me. I said, hey, I'll get back with you when I have made my decision, and just kept almost daily. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to go to the Marine Corps. Went to the Army recruiter, was basically ready to sign up, but they want to answer my question about going to college right away and doing senior Army ROTC. So I figured, since they want to talk to me about it, that must be the best route to go. So I ultimately chose to go straight to college and do Army ROTC, received my commission that way, and then entered into the service. Okay,
so and did you go to Tarleton State, or where did you go to college?
I did. I came to Tarleton State. Initially was going to go to A&M, or wanted to go to A&M as to do their pre-vet program and ultimately vet school. A&M decided that I was not going to go there for my first year. And then I found Tarleton. Not real sure how I ultimately found Tarleton. I do know I came here as part of a horse judging competition my senior year of high school. Don't think I really knew where I was at. Probably didn't pay much attention, because at that time everyone in my high school was, they're going to A&M. Everyone wanted to go to A&M, UT. Baylor was starting to become kind of a big option. TCU, Tech, like everyone wanted to go to the teams that you can watch a football game on TV.
Big 12 teams.
Ended up at Tarleton with the intent to transfer, and within a couple days of being here, I said, I'm not transferring. I'm going to be here for 4 years, and so ultimately I stayed.
And you were in the Corps Cadets?
Well, so everyone called it the Corps Cadets, but at that time it was just strictly Army ROTC.
Gotcha.
It wasn't the construct that we currently have here at Tarleton.
Okay. So walk us through, since I guess it was a little bit different than maybe had you been in the Corps of Cadets this would have been what year?
So this would have been fall of 97 is when I started.
Right.
So from 97 to 01 is when I was here at Tarleton. Okay.
So the Corps of Cadets looked a little bit different at Texas A&M than it did here. It was definitely a different.
Right. So you had the Corps Cadet at Texas A&M, and that was, as cadets here at Tarleton, that was one of the pieces that we would frequently, essentially correct individuals on as far as, because in our mind, if you say core, it's like, oh, we look like A&M when we didn't. So, or we act like A&M. As a, ROTC student here at Tarleton, we had our military science class, the academic portion. We had our labs once a week that we went to, and then we did field problems, FTXs, once a semester. That was kind of the minimum that you had to do as a cadet enrolled in ROTC. And then at some point you contracted if you were pursuing the commission. So I was offered towards the end of my first year, I was offered a 3-year scholarship from Army ROTC to help finish paying for school. So at that point, that's when I contracted. So basically, contract, just me saying, yep, I'm going to commission and I'm going to serve. If those who didn't have a scholarship would generally contract at the end of their second year or right at the beginning of their third year, as long as they met all the requirements in order to do that. So in order to take the third year of classes, you had to be contracted.
Okay.
So we had very large freshman class, get smaller during the second year, and then maybe a little bit smaller that third year, and then you pretty much held those numbers for the most part for the third and the fourth year.
Okay.
So
walk us through. So you're at Tarleton, you contract after year 1 with an Army ROTC scholarship.
Yes.
At some point, because you walked us through kind of the structure of what Army ROTC was at Tarleton, when did you start doing formal Army training or officer training or a basic training of sorts, or anything that was formal in the Army or for the Army while you were in college? So
the formal for the Army as far as training and preparing is the ROTC. So kind of simply put, if you think of the first 2 years of ROTC replace basic training. So
got it.
I say that in a sense. So if a individual went to basic training and went and served, or even if they just went to basic training, went to AIT and came out, and then they go to college and they want to pursue a commission through an ROTC program. If they line up academically to be a junior, so they can finish their bachelor's degree in 2 years, they don't have to take the first 2 years of ROTC. They start at the junior year of ROTC and move forward. So, so by doing ROTC, you didn't have a requirement to go to basic training. We did have cadets who went to basic training while at Tarleton, usually over the summer, and most of those it was because they were joining the National Guard or Reserve in pursuit of being a SMP cadet, a simultaneous membership program cadet, once they contracted into ROTC. So those cadets, same as us, except they would do their drill once a month, their AT over the summer. But so it's just, they were getting those experiences also while being here. There were opportunities for cadets to go to various schools, airborne school, air assault, things of that nature over the summer. I was able to go to air assault school, I guess, after my sophomore year in the summer of, I think it was June, but summer of '99, I was able to go to airborne school. There's either 2 or 3 of us that went there. So get to airborne school, and that's, learned that it doesn't matter how light you are, you still fall like a sack of potatoes.
Sure. Do you have a particular memory that sticks out for you? Maybe it's that while you were in college doing various schools or preparing for your commission, is there a memory that sticks out for you that's very vivid?
As far as just like with regards to the military specifically, or just
you can
overall?
frame it, sure, or anything that comes to mind.
Well, it's kind of So I guess I can say I kind of lived in two worlds here at Tarleton. It should have been more of living in the third world of academics, but I wasn't the most dedicated student most of the time. But so I had the world of kind of ROTC and doing those things. Unfortunately, at that time, there were, obviously you had groups and people did hang out. There was a couple of other cadets that I would hang out outside of just kind of ROTC events, and I still communicate with some of those individuals on a periodic basis. I'm horrible at keeping relationships. My wife was usually the one that kind of kept us in touch with everybody. And then I had the world. I was part of multiple organizations across campus. Plowboys being one of them, where most people usually got a shocked face look when they're like, "Oh, you can do both of those things." I was like, yeah. So today, when you go to a football game, you see a big group of cadets there, loud, proud, in the stands at the football game. We didn't go as a group as cadets back when I was here, so I did anything I did kind of supporting the university, supporting athletics, was all through the Plowboys and the other student organizations I was a part of. ROTC was generally viewed as, hey, this is just our academic path to get us to commissioning. So probably really the biggest moment, as far as the most impactful moment through just my entire time here at Tarleton, was, me actually proposing to my wife and she saying yes.
Did you do that here at Tarleton?
I did. I did it at the homecoming game of 2000. Oh shit! If she were here, she would be kicking my ass. So I did it. Yes, I guess it was either homecoming homecoming '99 or homecoming 2000. One of those. And I had the whole day, as far as in my mind, planned out. It did not go as far as planned, because it was one of those, I was absolutely not going to ask her dad over the phone. So my plan was, because they were going to be there, was to do it in the morning. Unfortunately, every time our paths we would be together, she was there, and so I wasn't going to do it. But I had already told a couple of my friends. I was like, okay, yep, this is going to happen. So I'm sitting there, they're in the stands, they're, on the wall. So which is where used to be the home side of the stadium, which is now the student side. And they're like, no, you have to do it. And she's coming off the field after the performance with the dance team. And as they come off, that performance ran long because of all the homecoming activities. So the players are already coming on to the field, and so I was like, I'm just not going to do it. And they're like, no, you have to. So ultimately I did it. But because everything ran long, we ultimately ended up getting a video of it, because I didn't tell anybody else. So I had no, and I didn't plan on any video or even pictures for that matter. But one of the parents of a player that was on, because I think Tarleton was receiving the kickoff after halftime, he was on the field. So because he was on the field and he happened to be in the general area of on the field and line of sight, we actually had video of the proposal. So I was pretty sure she said yes at the time. I mean, she acted like she said yes then, but well, I confirmed later that she did say yes.
Was it a little loud?
It was loud. Well, and part of it was one of her contacts or something had messed up where, so like her eyes were, when coming off the field, were watered, and she couldn't really, it was like she was having allergies or something, so she couldn't really see. Mm-hmm. So she just was kind of, I think I know what's happening. And then, so then it's like, we did that, and then we went back to because she had to still be with the dance team afterwards, went back, finished the game, and then went home. I didn't really do a whole lot of planning, mm-hmm. besides the fact of, hey, I was going to do it, and so.
Yeah, I can see how that sticks out as a memory for sure.
It worked out. In the end, it all worked out perfect for us. So.
Right.
And then we ultimately ended up getting married on campus. Stole the idea from another couple, mm-hmm. that we were friends with, that a couple of years prior had gotten married on campus. So we got married in 2001. She was done. She had graduated December before that. I still had to finish out until the next December, so mm-hmm. got married, did a reception, went and did basically about a 36, 48-hour honeymoon in Bluffdale, and then I came back to class Monday morning. So. And
where were you married on campus?
The Student Center.
At the Student Center?
Yes. So.
Definitely a vivid memory for sure.
Yeah, so that was kind of, if you had to say the memories that stuck out, mm-hmm. the most, that would be that. The other memories are all the bad choices that I probably don't want to put on audio recording.
Well, let's talk about your commissioning. Okay. So let's advance to your commissioning. This is December 2002?
So December 2001.
2001 for your commissioning.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about your commissioning. So share with us about your commissioning, and then your first duty assignment or school that you had to go to after you were commissioned.
So commissioning, leading up to commissioning was a little nerve-wracking, because at first I wasn't sure when I was going to find out my branch, mm-hmm. so the job I was going to do in the Army. So September 11th had just happened, which because I was an off-cycle cadet, my board for branching was happening then, so I didn't get branched with all the peers that I essentially went to school with.
And by off cycle, you mean you graduated in December?
In December instead of May.
Okay.
So, the attacks on September 11th on the Pentagon, everything kind of disrupted some of that timeline. Mm-hmm. So I ended up, my memory tells me I found out like 2 days before. It was probably a month. At least a month before I commissioned, what my branch was, because I just remember I had to go down to Fort Hood and get my uniform and all the pieces together. I had the uniform already. I just needed to get the branch insignia. And it felt like I didn't have any time, but in reality, I probably had 30 days or more that I knew. So commencement ceremonies were much smaller back then compared to what they are now. So they were, it was in Wisdom Gym. All of the ROTC offices were also in Wisdom Gym. So, and we utilized the classrooms in there for our classes. So with that, one of those spaces, basically we moved all the tables out of the way, and the morning of my graduation, we did the commissioning. Walked in, the PMS, Major Gardner at the time, he gave me the oath. I swore in, and then my dad was there, was able to give me the my first salute, which a lot of times you may hear that as the silver dollar salute, where the new officer will give that enlisted member a silver dollar. After that salute, my mom, my wife pinned on my rank, and then we walked into graduation. That was the first time that, at least in a little while, that they made it a big ordeal to pull all the commissionees in the ceremony up and kind of went through another swearing in ceremony in front of the collective crowd that was there for graduation. So did that, and at some point, I think I actually found out a couple days beforehand, but I was selected to be able to be a Gold Bar recruiter. So my first assignment, if you would, was immediately starting as a Gold Bar recruiter for the ROTC program here. So I did that until April. So I did that for, Jeff, about 3 months. And then I went to, flew to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri on Easter Sunday of 2002 to report for EOBC, so Engineer Officer Basic Course. So this was right at the time of, right before they switched to kind of the BOLIC model, BOLIC 1, 2, and 3. So, but I was still in the pre-BOLIC course instruction. So went to Fort Leonard Wood for Engineer Officer Basic Course. Spent, honestly, I can't remember how many months, because I think it was, so April, May, June, July, maybe it was 5 months, 4 months. Somewhere in July, August timeframe is whenever I completed and ultimately went to Fort Polk for my, what would be ultimately my first real duty assignment, where I was assigned to 2nd ACR. And then I spent 2 years, just over 2 years there, with my first deployment to Iraq being during that time with them.
What does ACR stand for?
Oh, sorry, Armored Cavalry Regiment.
Okay. So that was your first, and for your first assignment, were you a platoon leader, or were you a?
So I was a platoon leader for a sapper platoon.
Had you gone to? Was there a formal sapper school at this point?
So at this point, so yes, there was the sapper school, but I don't think it was quite at the point where the tab was authorized yet. I can't, in the top of my head, I can't remember the exact year where that was authorized. So I had not gone to that school yet at this point. So my company was a combat engineer company, and then so generally speaking, and the company's call sign was Sapper. So I was 2nd platoon leader, so I was Sapper 2-6. So just by saying I was a Sapper platoon leader or a combat engineer platoon leader, that doesn't mean that I was Sapper tabbed.
Right, which came later.
Right. Well, I attended the school later. I did not graduate from Sapper school.
Okay. So let's pause right here in that first station, that first deployment you said to Iraq.
Yes.
Can you describe, or what you're willing to describe about that particular deployment? What was it like in terms of leading being a platoon leader on your first deployment?
So, one, I could tell you we were all super excited and just to go, because for the most part, during that time you walk across the formation and you very rarely saw a combat patch, as most people refer, on the right shoulder. And so we were all excited. We thought we were going to be going later in the fall. But then through some events in theater, we came to work one morning and was like, hey, we're going on Thursday. And that 2nd Squadron, which is who my platoon supported, was going. So we started out, my whole platoon was going, and then it basically ended up being 10 of us going. So 10 of us from the company left real quick and in a hurry with 2nd Squadron. And so my personal experience getting into theater was, I would say, much better than the stories you typically hear, because we landed, most of us spent less than 48 hours in Kuwait, and then we were driving up and crossed the border into Iraq, and then and just moved our way up through the country. I think our first night was just strictly up somewhere in the middle of the desert. I don't remember. The biggest thing I remember at that point is I think it was one of our logistics elements, when they were coming back, picked up a ABC reporter that was trying to get back down to Kuwait. And that was about a week or so after we were there, and he had a sat phone and was talking. It's like, oh, no one's called home in a couple weeks, and he was like, so he just started passing the sat phone until the battery died, and then he charged it back up, and then I'm assuming he ultimately made it down to Kuwait. I just knew we weren't going to take him down. We were going the opposite direction. And then over the course of, I know it probably felt like only a couple days. It may have been a week or so, but we ultimately made it up into Sadr City, there outside Baghdad, and that's where we ultimately spent the rest of the year. And by that point, I never really saw. It felt like we were always right behind the, whatever fighting was happening. I believe we're behind the 101st, if I remember correctly. So it was like we'd be in our bubs, our battle update briefs, and it's like, oh, this is all the action that they just had over the last, couple of days. That's where we're going to. So it was like, all right, everyone's ready. We get in there, and it's like, okay. And so it just kind of felt that by the time, because Baghdad had fallen prior to us getting to Najaf. So that brought, actually, it fell as far as news reporters reporting that it fell. The night that ABC reporter was with us, because that's how we found out about it. Initially, it's like, oh yeah, they're reporting that it's fallen, and then, I think he had a couple of video clips of a couple of the statues being pulled over. So by the time we get up into Baghdad, for the most, into Sadr City, it was not a lot of activity really going on. It's mostly, there was a lot of looting and stuff going on initially at that time. So kind of trying to quell that, finding a bunch of munitions. Like for the most part, any school you rolled up to, every room, classroom was just filled with some level of munitions, whether small arms, mortar rounds, things of that nature. So the scouts were basically, they were finding all that, and then there was a location just outside the city that they were able to kind of consolidate it all. And then a couple of weeks later, then it was try to dispose of as much of it as we can. So myself, and the 9 other members from my platoon, because we didn't have our vehicles there, so the scouts would take us out to that location, and we'd stay out there all day and just get to blow up as much stuff as we can for the day, and then do it again the next day. Did that for a week or so. At this point, I probably have put ourselves a couple months. Within about 30, 45 days, or maybe it was 60 days, the rest of my platoon and company had made it in the theater.
Okay.
So at some point, I think it was within 30 days, if I remember correctly, because we actually thought that there was a rumor going around that everything was going to be done and we were going to leave in 30 days to go home, and everyone else wasn't going to get to come. But obviously that did not turn out to be the case. So it was, for the most part, a pretty uneventful. I mean, the scouts would have some things that, they would be in some firefights here and there, but up until, and I honestly can't remember the date. It was towards the end of the deployment, or at least 3/4 of the way. The first real firefight that I remember, as far as within Sadr City, because I walked through the streets frequently, and I felt, generally speaking, safer there than the rest of the city. I think it was Gulf Troop. They were going out. I had one of my squads was with them to go do an assessment of a couple of police stations that we were helping to fortify. And they got hit right in the middle of Sadr City. believe they lost 2. It was at least 1. Details are sketchy, but they lost a couple that night. And there, that piece I listened mostly on the radio. I was in the talk at the time as it was coming in. And then after that, the really only big thing, because the one of the bombings at the UN, because the UN compound was right next to where the regiment headquarters was, and so that happened somewhere in there. And I had one of my squads. It was just they were just doing kind of a routine. Because our company headquarters was located with them, so we had to go drop off a vehicle there and then come back. So at that point, I was just like, oh, that's pretty simple. One of my squad leaders just was able to take the patrol. We were able to because I think at that time we were able to travel on 3 vehicles. So they went. Unfortunately, then they got delayed coming back because as they were right after. Fortunately, I delayed them enough unintentionally, or I didn't delay them. I wanted to call them back because I forgot we needed to send something else. It was some paperwork, but I didn't call them back for it. And because of that, they made it into the camp before the bomb went off at the UN. Otherwise, they would have been probably close enough to be injured, at least to some effect. But they basically rolled in, and then as soon as that went off, they were basically tasked right away. They went and they were part of the recovery, initial recovery effort for that. But besides really kind of those 2 things, like for the most part, it was a lot of working. Like we did a lot of, trying to work with the locals to rebuild their infrastructure. Solder City was nowhere near, infrastructure-wise, having the capacity to be able to support the number of people that were there. So working through that. So that's really what mostly, myself and my platoon, where we were focused on. Beginning was a lot of escorting EOD or responding to when the scouts would out and they would find unexploded ordnances, and take care of that. Then it moved into really working with to build infrastructure. We did, like I mentioned earlier, some of the building up some of the defenses on police stations, and stuff like that. And then I ended up leaving right at the 12-month mark. So, because that was, at the time, they basically were like, look, 12 months max, you're out. So
for deployment.
For the deployment. Okay. So 2nd Squadron and everybody who went initially with them, we redeployed. So I came home, and I think about the time I was already back, but about the time I think half to 3/4 of the squadron had physically landed, that's when it was announced everyone was extended to 15 months.
Okay.
So right away, there were some key personnel that were essentially just turned around in midair. I mean, they probably made it all the way back, but they essentially went back right away. The rest of the scouts, I don't think any of them, I mean, key positions were sent back. Me and my guys, we were sitting there. We hadn't heard anything, so we took our leave, like everyone was doing. I came back early from leave because I'd gotten word through kind of the rumor mill that we were going back. So we came back. My wife and I came back and then we got officially notified that, hey, we're gonna go back. But by the time everything worked out and with all the logistics of us going back, the rest of the unit was less than 30 days before they were coming home. So ultimately, I didn't go home. So I had to leave real quick, within a week, and that kind of, I guess for the family it sucked because it was like, oh, we don't have time to prepare. For me, it was kind of easy to leave real quick because all you're thinking about is what you got to do to be ready to go for your job. And there's not much time to really think and, feel sorry for yourself that, oh, I've got to leave or, so I left real quick, but then I also didn't have to stay for 15 months. So in the end, for my family, I think they got the better end of the deal. By having to kick me out real quick, I got to stay.
Sure.
Get home quicker.
So where was home at this time? Was it in Texas or were you?
So I was stationed at Fort Polk. So my wife, so we lived on post.
Okay.
So she, we knew she was pregnant before I left. So basically right after I left, she went back to basically stay with her parents in Texas. So, but everything, like all of our stuff and everything was still there in Louisiana. So she would go back and forth. And then for my daughter being born, she was back in Louisiana. So my daughter was born about 6 months into the deployment, and then
And did you deploy again?
So not from Fort Polk. So after Polk, I went down to the construction unit, 46 Engineer Battalion, for a couple of months. Because as we were coming back, 2nd ACR was moving from Polk to Lewis. So pretty much everybody, if they weren't going to stay with, because they were standing up 10th Mountain 4th Brigade at Polk, so anybody who wasn't moving straight into there just kind of was either PCSing, moving to a new, or just laterally moving across posts. Okay. I moved across for a couple months until I got my orders to go to the captain's career course. So that move was a family move. So my wife, my daughter, so went to the captain's career course.
And where was that?
Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
So did that. Thought we were going to stay there. Thought we had worked it out where our follow-on assignment was going to be there. Wasn't the case. But after the career course, that's when I attended sapper school. So it kind of made it pretty easy because all I had to do is just, my wife drove me across posts and dropped me off.
Right.
So there was no real travel that had to be arranged or anything. So I went through, I completed the full 28 days of the school. probably ultimately should have been a little better physically prepared. I think I made some assumptions that obviously did not pan out, but ultimately didn't end up graduating, fell several points short of that, but still great school to have gone to. I still think it's the best school to go to as far as what you're going to learn while you're there. So I did that, and then so once I completed the school, then I PCS to Fort Sill, Oklahoma with the 2nd Simulation Exercise Group. And so they were, it was an ACRC position, so active component, reserve component. So bottom line, I was one of the active duty guys in a reserve unit.
Okay.
So, but it didn't necessarily feel like that because there were quite a few of those members of the unit that were on active duty orders. Because our purpose was to train battalion and brigade staffs in preparation for their deployments.
Okay.
So it felt like a regular going to everyday unit, except for the fact pretty much because it was a very top heavy organization as far as rank, pretty much everybody there was my parents' age. And I was, as a captain, pretty much the junior person there. Like, I think there might, officer-wise, there might have been one first lieutenant during the couple of years I was there, but otherwise there were about 3 or 4 of us captains, and we were the bottom coffee makers, if you would.
Okay.
We did more than that, but so did that for a couple of years. And then ultimately 8th Engineer Battalion was standing back up at Fort Hood, and they were filling those positions. So when Branch said, hey, we can send you down to Fort Hood, I was like, hey, that's great. That's close to, I mean, my family, obviously. My wife's family was just up in the Dallas area. So we went down there. I spent assigned to the 8th Engineer Battalion. I was in the S3 shop as one of the assistant planners, basically. Did that. And then that's who I deployed with the second time. So we initially deployed as just a battalion headquarters. And so we deployed to Baghdad, and I knew that the plan was to take command of the sapper company that was, because as I was coming into the 8th, I was going to take command of one company, and then their timeline for deployment got moved up. I hadn't made it there yet, so someone else took that company. So ultimately, the company I was going to take command deployed probably about a month, if I remember correctly, before the headquarters, the battalion headquarters deployed. So they deployed, and then we deployed. We were in Baghdad. I spent about 30 days in Baghdad with the engineer cell. And then I met up with 5th Engineer Battalion, which is where 87th, the 87th Sapper Company is where I was going to take command. They were attached to 5th Engineers. So I went up, was their battle captain, basically, their night battle captain, for a couple of months until it was time for change command. And then, so December, so what year are we in? So I went, so 7, so 8. So December 2008. Took command in theater, and then finished out until July in theater. We got home July 4th
Okay.
of 2009. And the only reason I remember that date and no other dates is because my mother-in-law's birthday is on July 4th. And I knew we landed, took the buses, walked out on Tube Field early morning. Our families had been there since like 3 or 4. And then we were able to go meet our families. We grabbed our bags. We dropped it off at the house, and then we were driving up to my in-laws for 4th of July weekend.
Right.
So,
Well, we'll just say during your company command,
yeah.
are there any memories of that time that you spent, those months that you can share about the time that you commanded that particular company?
So during our time, as a company commander, I really benefited from how well the guys did their job, and then from our location that we were operating in. So we were credited at that time with the most number of found and cleared IEDs, primarily because most of the ones we found were back from essentially the surge, and all the batteries had died. So for the most part, if we happened to roll over it, it didn't go off. Most of the ones, and depending on where they were, if they were outside a checkpoint, an Iraqi checkpoint, most of the time it wasn't a full IED. They were putting stuff there just to make sure we'd always come back. I guess one of the enjoyable memories was, so we were in Diyala province, so along the Diyala River, bunch of palm groves, and there were problems with some kind of booby traps being placed where weapons caches were, and maneuver units were trying to clear them out. They'd get a couple people had some minor injuries. I say minor, they still got medevac. They were out like maybe in Germany for a couple months, and then they made it back. But so we were coming up with ways to try that. So our first thought was, hey, let's burn all the undergrowth. And we were tired of always just route clearance, which was our primary task, is very boring, to say the least. So I got this opportunity, and I was able to rotate my platoons through to basically make food gas in 55-gallon drums, a gelled fuel. So we'd make that, set up about 10 of them together, daisy chain together, oriented into the palm groves, made for a really kick-ass fireball, really cool. Really more work than a lot of effort for very minimal gains. We learned pretty quickly of that. It would only burn off about maybe 20-30 feet into the palm groves, but it was a lot more fun than so we adjusted some techniques a little bit over the course, doing it about 3 or 4 more times. Ultimately we ended up basically getting a big ass flame thrower on the back of a trailer that they were able to go through and kind of do more directed and controlled burns.
You don't think about clearing
that way.
Clearing brush, because what you see on the news is a lot of desert rock. So when you talk about that, that's interesting to see. Because
and it was right along the river.
Right along the river.
So So that, yeah, well, speaking about how different it looks along the river, that was one of the funny stories. So during my first deployment, one of my wife's cousins, her husband was also deployed over there supporting. Difference is he was an Air Force pilot. And, you know, they would question my stories because Soldier City was a shithole. I mean, it just sewage everywhere. I talk about how crappy just everything just kind of was. And his stories were like, man, it's a beautiful country. And the first helicopter ride I took, and they went down along the river, I was like, well, now I know why he thinks it's a beautiful country. And, so that perspective,
Sure.
that was going back home.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So after your second deployment in your company command, you come back to the States.
So I come back to the States. I finish out my command time. So let's see, I took command. So it would be somewhere in the summer time frame, spring, summer time frame of 2009, maybe? No, 2010. Either way, not much. It was maybe 6 to 8 months after I got back. And so we changed command. Now I'm just kind of figuring out, because for the most part, I know I'm going to PCS somewhere. Now it's just a matter of figuring out where branch is going to send me. Stars basically perfectly aligned. I requested to be an assistant professor of military science, APMS, at Tarleton. And lo and behold, that position was open and available, and I got assigned APMS with Tarleton State Army ROTC with duty at A&M Central Texas. So that was the same year that Tarleton Central Texas changed names to A&M Central Texas.
Okay.
So my everyday job now was there. The only difference is I turned left off the highway instead of right. So I didn't have to move my family, which was great. And we got to make frequent trips up to Tarleton.
Right.
So that during that whole time frame, that was kind of the determining, especially once we got back to Fort Hood, that was the start of the decision that with the 100% certainty that once I was out of the Army, we were coming back to Stephenville and we were going to be here, because we knew we were always going to be in Texas, and within a couple hours of Stephenville. But the more we were like coming up as alumni, we were just like, yep, we're going to come back here.
Had you been promoted to major yet at this point? When did that happen?
So I got promoted to major while I was APMS.
Okay.
So that would be about the start of my second year doing that job. So I took 2010. Fall of 2010 is basically when I started that job. That is also the first diagnosis that my wife received of having breast cancer. So we she was diagnosed. Then went through very extensive treatments. At the time, we were, thought had everything, and we're back to, living as regular, normal life as we did at that time. Finished my time as APMS. Ended up, again, stars kind of aligned, because at that point, we've got doctors established, oncologists, surgeons for her treatment. So we really wanted to stay at Fort Hood. I ended up getting picked up for an assignment with Div West there at Fort Hood with, I think it was 479 FA Brigade, Field Artillery Brigade with Div West. So I ended up getting assigned with them. I was the Brigade S1, basic personnel officer. And primarily because I had been without one for a while, and all right, you'll do it. So one of two jobs I really never wanted to have during my time, but learned a lot, seeing that side of the S1 shop. So I did that for a couple months. Then 3 Corps was deploying, get ready to deploy to Afghanistan. They needed additional engineer major, and I was basically an excess. I was an available person, so I then got transferred over to 3 Corps. Was over there with them for a couple months as we prepped, and then went to Afghanistan and was assigned to IJC.
What's IJC?
The ISAF Joint Command, so
Okay.
ISAF, International Security Assistance Force. So we were in Kabul. I was one of the planners, or not planners, within IJC Future Operations. So, so I really did more as oversaw the tracking of and closing of the bases, the base closures across country. So I did that for 12. Well, technically it was 12 months. I think it was like 11 months and like 3 weeks or something like that. Did that, came home from that deployment, and that then went straight to 36th Engineer Brigade, so back to the same brigade I was in previously when I was with 8th Engineer Battalion. It's just now I'm at the brigade headquarters. During that time, I was at the brigade for the rest of my time in the Army, and I essentially bounced through just about all of the brigade staff positions you can. A lot of that, I think it was to help keep me at Fort Hood longer. So because throughout that time, my wife, we would get some reoccurrences with the cancer, go back through in and out of treatments, and so towards the end, so then 2016, 17. I guess it must have been 2000, or late 16, early 17, somewhere in that ballpark. That's when I ultimately ended up getting submitted for Med Board, Medical Evaluation Board, which ultimately ended up getting me I got medically retired in 2018. That's when I came to Tarleton. Got hired with Tarleton with the Corps Cadets. Shortly after we closed on our, while we were closing on the house, that's when my wife, she got hired to be an adjunct with the English department.
Okay.
And so at this point we're sitting like, okay, everything's perfect, ready. We're just gonna go. And first day of classes came, and she didn't feel well enough to go teach. Second day was kind of the same deal, and then we hit Labor Day weekend, and she was waiting until Labor Day weekend to really say much of anything because she didn't want me to take off work to go to the doctors with her. We ended up going to the hospital for that Friday night, and that was when they found the cancer had spread to her brain. And within about 6 hours of us going that evening, she was at a hospital in Fort Worth. And ultimately that's when we found out that basically there was nothing that can be done. Like they stopped counting brain tumors at I think 9. Like they're like after 9 they just said there's more than. So we, she tried to, initially she wasn't going to, but then we went ahead and we tried a round of radiation for it, which didn't really happen. And then February 2019 is when she passed. And that whole time period from September to, well, even still now, but was really showed that we made the right decision bringing our family to Stephenville. Because as a student at Tarleton, my focus was all Tarleton. I made fun of the rest of Stephenville. It was just, okay, whatever. I just focus at Tarleton. But coming back, with the family, the community, both Tarleton and Stephenville community really was able to wrap their arms around us. And so both my kids are, my daughter came here. My son is currently down at A&M. So I try to keep them here, but got to go where it's right for them. And so now we're just, like I said, I pretty much right after I was medically retired, I got hired here at Tarleton, the Corps Cadets. So we talked about what Army ROTC was. So there's still Army ROTC, and there's still, but now if you don't contract and pursue a commission, you have a pathway to still live that lifestyle here on campus and build your leadership skills to go off and lead in other areas throughout our society. So we've been doing that and steadily growing in numbers over the course of the years, and we're looking at our largest increase of incoming cadets this next year. So it's been fun.
Well, since when you left the service, which was around 20...
It was 2018 is whenever I left.
You're here at Tarleton. Do you engage... So you mentioned that when your wife was living, she was the one that would keep you in touch with some of your old friends and things like that. So did you join any veterans, or are you a part of any veterans organizations?
So coming back here, I technically on paper, and I pay my dues, I'm a member of the American Legion.
Okay.
I've attended a couple of meetings. Unfortunately, it always seems like the Tuesdays of meetings, there's either I end up engaged in something else, or I just it's on my calendar. One of these days I'll be more engaging, but generally speaking, no. Like I do. So I follow a lot of my, my peers, former soldiers on Facebook.
Okay.
So I have them as friends, and there's times where we accidentally find yourself in the same
Sure.
city, location, and maybe meet up, but as a general, I enjoy sitting at home. I enjoy going out and doing things, but I enjoy, like, I'm just okay sitting at home. So usually I enjoy doing this at Tarleton.
Right.
So I coming back, and you have your memories as a student, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to come work, and I have no idea what working for the institution that you enjoyed being a student as is going to be like. But my old memories, like, oh, it's going to be this. Well, it's nothing like that, because ideally you'd be more matured, and I've grown up a little bit, but I really enjoy seeing, one, the future leaders of our armed forces, and being part of developing and part of their growth. But my enjoyment now, as far as what I remember from being a student, is watching the current students live, because the students are all the same. It's just 20 years later.
Sure.
Like, so now it is a little nerve-wracking sometimes whenever you see someone's like, oh man, I know who they are, but then you have to remember, you're remembering someone from 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and then it's like, oh wait, that you're the kid of who I'm thinking of. So it's like, but the students, they all act the same as we did, and I'm sure we acted the same as our parents did. It's just a matter of the technology that's there. Thank goodness we didn't have digital communication and recording devices. So if you made a stupid decision and you recorded it with the picture, you generally had to wait 72 hours before you can show off that mistake, and you usually decided not to, and it ended up in a shoebox.
Right.
So yeah, it's just I spend most of my time trying to be a part of just the stuff going on. Sure. I knocked it off of the
clip.
There we go.
There we go.
I spend most of my time, if it's outside of work, it's either just being at the house, doing things, or I'll drive back home and go see, people down there, or my buddies and I will maybe plan a trip or something. Sure. Especially now that essentially both my kids are out of the house. so they're, you know, able to fully take care of themselves. So,
Right.
I'm not sitting here like the first couple of years that I was here, where it's like, okay, well, they can't drive, so I have to get themselves. So there's the flexibility, or go hang out, with the kids at their place.
So you would definitely say that your military service, well, your pre-military service, ROTC here at Tarleton, to your military service, moving the family back, now being here at Tarleton, all those things are connected. And I'm assuming you have no plans to leave Tarleton, right? Because this is home for you.
Well, right. I am 100%. Okay. In my mind right now, I'm 100% yes. I am not leaving here. One, I don't want to pack up another house. Like, so the house I'm in is the house I'm at.
Right.
So whether I'm working for Tarleton or not, I will be involved with Tarleton, and I'm gonna still, my house is gonna be here.
Gotcha.
And now, obviously, I guess there could be things that could change, but
Sure.
It is not in any of my known plans right now to do anything. And just kind of, I mean, life has a way, it'll work itself out. Like I said, we thought we were getting the short end of the stick when essentially we had less than a week's notice that I was leaving on deployment 1, and then I ended up gaining 3 months essentially because I didn't get extended. There, there's times where it's just like you think you get punched in the gut, and it may be a punch in the gut, but it ends up being okay. But so right now, yeah, we're going to be here. We'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll see where the kids end up.
Sure.
So,
sure.
And maybe I move. Maybe it's just long vacations.
Right.
If they're somewhere different than here.
What do you want future generations to remember about your military service?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily about my service, because I don't have this grand story thinking that, hey, I knew from the time I was 2 years old that like all I ever wanted to be was this. I knew I reached a point in which I knew I was going to serve, and I wanted to serve. But I think one of the biggest things, especially when you look at where we are this day and age, and how people consume information, you get, either all positive, all negative, depending on how you're, on one side or the other. And in that aspect, the military is, essentially just like any other job. There's going to be things you enjoy. There's going to be things you really, really enjoy. There's going to be things you don't enjoy. There's going to be people you like, people you dislike. Military is great in the fact that, for the most part, if you really don't like somebody, one of you is probably going somewhere in 2 years or less. Like one of you is going to another assignment. So you don't always have to, you're not going to be stuck working, 20, 30 years with, a boss or an employee that you just cannot get along with. That's also the downside, because you find someone you really enjoy, maybe they become, a mentor that you just really like, a boss you like working for. yeah, one of you is going to probably be gone within 2 years
Right.
to another assignment. So, I don't look down or on people who ultimately don't serve. Not everybody is meant to serve. And even some of those that think, so if you're going to serve in the military, you need it's one of those that at some level, yes, you're going to be called to do it if you ultimately serve. But just understand that regardless of maybe what may have brought you in to sign that dotted line, whether it's the promise of money to pay for school or whatever, there's ultimately one purpose for that, and that is for your signing up to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and to do that with as much as giving your life for it. Mm-hmm. So there's, you just have to understand that, and just know what you're getting in. And if you decide to serve, enjoy it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to enjoy everything, but a lot of the times that embrace the suck, it'll as a unit, that some of your closest bonds are going to come during those moments. Right? Doing a PT session whenever it's just storming and there's lightning in the area, but someone above you said, nope, we're still going to go out and do it. And you're running through that. We all complain like the dickens during that. But later that day, now that's just this big bonding moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything specific to hey, what I did. I never did anything, spectacular, extraordinary. Military is very simple to be successful. Come in. They tell you when to be somewhere. They tell you where to be, when to be there, and what clothes to wear. Mm-hmm. And so if you just start out just doing that, you're halfway there. And then, listen, absorb information. Mm-hmm. And, learn from all your leaders and subordinates alike, because even the bad ones, you're going to learn something from them.
Right. Even
if it's just what not to do. So,
is there anything we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I don't know. I'm actually kind of surprised you got me to talk this much on camera anyway. So, no, I can't really think of anything.
We appreciate your time, and thanks so much for being willing to be interviewed.
Okay, well, thank you. So, good job getting me to do this.
I think Ted had a lot of help with that.